We'll pick our teams for the game. We know that Alisson will not be in goal because of the Brazilian situation. So Caoimhin Kelleher between the sticks. The back four, though, is interesting ahead of a big week. I'd be tempted to make a couple of changes. I can maybe see a Tsimikas or a Joe Gomez possibly coming in. But Donny, which way would you play the back four, bearing in mind Atletico is just a couple of days away?
Yeah, Robertson, Trent, Van Dijk and Matip.
Fair enough. Well argued. Ghosty?
Yeah, I'd struggle to make a case for anyone else. Obviously, they will have trained this week, whereas Van Dijk has been on international duty. But I'd still think that he warrants an inclusion, and Trent's back, Robertson, Matip and Van Dijk, yeah.
Is there no argument to protect Matip, do you think, down ahead of a couple of big games coming up? I'd be very concerned about him playing all three, to be honest.
Yeah, I know what I mean. I'm right in saying he hasn't been away on international duty, though, has he?
No.
So he has had a chance to rest and recuperate and prepare. There's been this thing for Matip for 2 or 3 years now. How many? And obviously, the last thing I want to do is tempt fate, but he hasn't had an injury yet this season. Is he becoming
Dan,
a little bit
why
more?
have you done that? Why have you done that, Dan?
Is he becoming a bit more robust?
We'll be
in his old
messaging you
age?
at 20. From messaging you at 20-1 when he's gone down.
Be all my fault, won't it? I can understand the logic in throwing a Joe Gomez in. He hasn't played a lot of football, Gomez, and he's a very important member of Liverpool's squad. I think he's got a very, very big future ahead of him. He does need minutes in his legs, but you wouldn't want to be making too many changes for Atletico or for United away. So why are you then talking about playing that back four for all 3 games? So if you were going to make changes, I think it probably would be for Watford. I've been really chuffed with Tsimikas this season. In fact, until what was the match before the Porto away before City? So the previous, I was a bit concerned about Robertson, who hasn't quite been at his best. And there was the 3-3 draw at Brentford, wasn't there? And I just thought he looked a bit leggy, not quite on it. And I was kind of thinking to myself, is there a case for saying, putting Tsimikas in against City? But to be fair to Robert, he looked much more like his old self again away to Porto, even if obviously they were pretty woeful on the night. And he had another decent game against City. But I do want to see the likes of Tsimikas and Gomez getting minutes because, as we know, injuries happen during a football season, and you don't want to have to thrust them in undercooked. But gun to my head, I think Klopp will probably go with the usual 4 tomorrow.
Yeah, we talk of injuries. There are injuries in midfield as well, and that's going to influence me to have a bit of a formation change, Dory. I'm going to go 4-2-3-1 just because of the lack of options. I'm going to go Keita and Henderson, which I know goes against what I said about Oxlade-Chamberlain earlier on. But are you going to go with a 2 or a 3, and which 2 or 3 might that be?
Well, basically, Henderson and Milner will definitely play. And if Oxlade-Chamberlain plays, then it's a full English midfield, which I'm sure some people will be delighted with on social media. Keita, I must admit, has he really played 3 games in the last? Because obviously I've been off for a week.
Well, I read that online. I haven't checked it out and verified
it. He played 3 games, but I'm not sure how far spread apart they were.
It's still, I suppose he hadn't played for a while, had he? And if he's got through then. But yeah, having listened to what you said about Oxlade-Chamberlain, if he doesn't play, he's never going to play, is he? So I think it will be those 3. Whether or not they set up in a 2 or a 3 a 3 or a 2 with Oxlade-Chamberlain more advanced, I think it's going to depend on basically what Watford do. And I think possibly that's what they'll change it around. And as I said before, in the first 15-20 minutes, just to fit what actually, what fits the game best. So I think there's enough tactical variety in those 3. Plus, 2 of them will have been training all week and they would have been planning for this game. I do think, by the way, if Liverpool are going to make changes, it'll be Atletico by definition, because they're going to make 2 at least with Alisson and Fabinho coming in. And I think they could change people around, because that's a game where it sounds a bit daft. They can afford to lose that game. Whereas I think Watford, United, they can't really. They need to be, the Brentford game in particular, possibly not put them back, but that's kind of put a bit more pressure on. They can't really afford. If they draw at United, fine, but drawing at Watford and United, suddenly it's like, hang on, that's 4 draws in a row now. They've got to just get something points in the bag, as it were, even at this early stage, so they don't fall too far behind. So I think they will go as strong as they possibly can at Watford.
Yeah, I'm thinking along similar lines in terms of going for it, trying to get a couple in front and then maybe making changes. But Ghosty, what are you going to go for in terms of your midfield?
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Matt. In terms of the 4-2-3-1, we don't really see the four play all at once, do we? Really did it at Manchester City last season. He did it against Newcastle, but other than that, we don't really see it that much. But maybe this is an opportunity for it to have a go. And Liverpool in that first half against Newcastle, they obviously drew the game, but they created more than enough to put Newcastle away. And it was during that weird time when Liverpool were, low in the hunches and whatever else at Anfield and really struggling for confidence. But I think now if they were to create those sorts of chances again against Watford tomorrow, you'd have no danger of Salah or Jota or, any of them really sticking them away. So I'm going to go with 4-2-3-1, and my two in midfield is going to be Milner and Henderson, I think.
Dan, your midfield, are you going with James Milner as well?
Yeah, for me, as I said earlier in the pod, I just don't think there's that many options open to Klopp. I mean, as Dory said, we don't know exactly the details of Keita's international involvement, but given his checkered injury history and the fact that he's already had one or two little mishaps this season, if he had, and it's obviously not just the games he's played, just the travelling, I think Klopp will want to maybe err on the side of caution there, and having the likes of Milner and Chamberlain particularly, who haven't travelled and should be primed and raring to go. For me, it's Henderson, Milner, and Chamberlain.
Yep, I'm going to go with the front four then. As I say, I'm going to go with Jota, Mane, Salah and Firmino all at once and hopefully make a couple of changes on 60-65. But Dory, you went with a three, didn't you? So what's your front three going to be?
It'll be Firmino down the middle, and it'll be Salah on the right and Mane on the left. And I think Jota, I think he's another one he'll be quite keen to play against. Let's go, given the fact he used to play for them.
Of course. Ghosty, your front four are the front four, or are you making a change in there?
No, it is the front four. It's just a case of where they're going to line up, isn't it? Salah on the right, Mane on the left, and I suppose it's very flexible, isn't it? It can change on a whim really throughout the game, but maybe Jota just tucking in behind Firmino. Jota played on the right, actually, didn't he, against Brentford for the last half an hour or whatever it was. I think Salah went as a number 9 and Firmino was behind them. But, Firmino behind, Jota behind Firmino, I think.
Yeah, Salah with a pretty good record against Watford as well. I think he scored 4 against them once, didn't he? Dan, who are you going to go with for your front three, I think it is?
It'll be the traditional front three. Again, it's similarly to Keita, even if we know Jota's been declared fit. But if there has been a slight little niggle there, I also think he's a better bench option than Firmino. He's more likely to affect the game from the bench than Bobby is. Bobby tends to, his better performances come when he starts. So yeah, for me, the tried and trusted Salah on the right, Mane on the left, and Bobby in the middle.
Interesting stuff. Well, that's our teams. They're not too long, given it's an early kickoff this weekend until we find out whether any of us are correct. But just before we go, we'll do our usual match predictions. I'm going to say Liverpool win this 3-1. Doily, what are you going to go with?
Well, I've been saying for these away games, I've been fully expecting the one game where I didn't think Liverpool, where I said Liverpool would win, is the Brentford game, and they didn't. All the other ones I didn't say they'd win, so they did. So I don't know. I think Watford, they haven't got Troy Deeney to annoy Liverpool anymore, and they haven't got Decore, who had a very good game again. I'm pretty sure he did play in that 3-0, didn't he? Because I know he hadn't joined Everton then. I'm pretty sure he played in that game. It just seems like it was another lifetime.
Yeah, it started last season, he went to Everton.
Yeah. So he's caused Liverpool problem when he's playing for Everton last season. So I'm not entirely sure how well positioned Watford are in terms of being able to do what Brentford did, because I think that's what Liverpool are going to have to get used to for certainly the next month or so when teams doing that. So I think Liverpool will win by 2-1.
Close one. I think they've got Moussa Sissoko, haven't they, trying to do that kind of Decore type role, but I don't think he's quite as good or quite as consistent. Ghosty, how do you think it's going to go?
I think it'll be fairly comfortable, to be honest. I think Liverpool will win 2-0. I can't see famous last words, of course, but I can't see Watford scoring it. If, Liverpool, that Brentford game aside, Liverpool have been really strong defensively, haven't they? Obviously, you can see the 2 against City, but that can happen to anyone, and they didn't get beaten that one. But yeah, they've been good on the road generally. I think the Brentford game was the worst they played in months. Still managed to come away with a draw. They were fantastic at Leeds. I think if they play anywhere near that kind of level, they'll have too much for Watford.
Last but not least, Dan, how do you reckon it might play out?
I'm going to go for the traditional one team winning by 3 goals at Vicarage Road, which has been a regular theme in the last few years there. And you will be unsurprised to say it's going to be Liverpool winning by 3 on this occasion, not Watford. We hope.
Yes, I'm sure we'd all certainly take that. And of course, we'll have all of the reaction to the game across the Liverpool Echo, Liverpool.com and the Blood Red channel. We'll be back to assess the game on Monday's edition of the podcast, where we'll also be gearing up for the visit to Atletico Madrid on Tuesday night. For now, though, from myself, Matt Addison, Paul Gorst, Ian Doyle and Dan Kay, until next time here on the Blood Red channel, thank you for joining us and goodbye for now.